Your feet are freezing. The sand is cold in a way desert sand should never be at dawn. You sit up slow. Your mouth is dry. You haven't eaten real food in 3 days. And then you look down. The ground around your tent is covered in tiny white specks, something that was not there when you fell asleep, something nobody in the camp has ever seen before. This is the scene the Bible describes in Exodus chapter 16. The Israelites wake up in the Sinai desert and the ground is covered in small round pellets. They have no word for it. So they ask the only question you can ask when you see something new. Manhu, what is it? That question becomes the food's name, manna. For the next 40 years, it fell 6 days a week. It stopped the morning they crossed into Canaan. And ever since, scholars, soldiers, and scientists have been asking the same question those hungry Israelites asked at dawn. What was it? The Bible does not leave us guessing. Moses gave us 5 specific clues. And in 1927, a team of scientists took those 5 clues into the Sinai desert to test them. This is what they found. The 5 clues Moses left in the text. Before we go hunting, let's get the evidence straight. The Bible describes manna in 2 main passages. Exodus 16 verse 31 says, "It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey." Numbers 11 verse 7 says, "The manna was as coriander seed, and the color of it as the color of bdellium." Exodus 16 verse 14 tells us it appeared with the morning dew. And Exodus 16 verse 21 says, "When the sun grew hot, it melted." So here are the 5 clues. Lock them in. 1. It was white. 2. It was small and round, the shape and size of coriander seed, which is about 4 millimeters across. 3. It showed up on the ground with the morning dew. 4. It melted in the sun. 5. It tasted like honey wafers. And one more thing worth knowing. Ancient Hebrew commentators pointed this out long before modern botanists did. The comparison to coriander was about shape and size, not about color. Coriander seeds are actually brown. The Bible makes the color point separately, white like bdellium, which in Hebrew tradition was a pearl or a light resin. So the real-world candidate has to pass all 5 clues. Fail 1, you're out. Let's start eliminating. Why the Central Asian lichen theory falls apart. First candidate, Lecanora esculenta, the so-called manna lichen. This one has a real story behind it. It's a hardy lichen that grows across parts of Central Asia. In rainy years, it dries up, detaches from the rocks, and gets carried in clouds across the steppes by the wind. There are old travel accounts from the mountains of Iran and Iraq describing it falling from the sky and being eaten by hungry people on the march. Sounds like a match. Pale, small, falls from above. Now run it through the 5 clues. It does not grow in Sinai. The distribution maps of Lecanora esculenta cover Central Asia, parts of Turkey, northern Iran, not the Sinai Peninsula. Harvard botanist Roger Watton, in a 2010 paper in the journal Opticon 1826, reviewed this theory and concluded the geography alone rules it out. It does not taste like honey wafers. Accounts describe it as bitter and chalky. It does not appear with the dew. It is carried by wind, not formed with moisture. Harold and Alma Moldenke, in their reference work Plants of the Bible, published by Chronica Botanica in 1952, noted that the lichen theory was popular among 19th century scholars but collapsed under field testing. First candidate, out. The mushroom hypothesis, mainstream scholars reject. In his 1992 book Food of the Gods, the American ethnobotanist Terence McKenna proposed that manna might have been Psilocybe cubensis, a hallucinogenic mushroom. Let me give you both sides. The argument is that ancient sacred food traditions sometimes pointed toward psychoactive plants, and that the Bible's language of bread from heaven could be coded. Now, the counter-evidence. Psilocybe cubensis grows in cattle dung in tropical and humid climates. It does not grow in arid desert environments. The Sinai climate simply cannot support it. It isn't white, it's brown with a yellow cap. It isn't small and round like coriander seed. It's a full mushroom with a stem and a cap. And it doesn't melt in the sun, it withers. Mainstream biblical scholarship rejects this identification almost universally. The Moldenkes don't entertain it. Botanical surveys of the Sinai don't list Psilocybe cubensis. The South African journal Verbum et Ecclesia, in a 2021 review of Manna scholarship by Yossi Leshem and Abraham Ophir Shemesh, dismissed the mushroom theory as having no foundation in the text and no ecological basis in the Sinai. On the 5-clue test, the mushroom fails 4 out of 5. Second candidate, out. Bodenheimer's 1927 Sinai. Discovery that changed everything. Summer, 1927. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem sends a small scientific expedition into the Sinai Peninsula. The team leader is an entomologist named Friedrich Simon Bodenheimer. With him is Dr. Oscar Theodor from the university's microbiology department. They were looking for something specific. Bedouins in the Sinai had been telling European travelers for centuries that a sweet white substance falls from the tamarisk trees in June and July. They called it man, and they ate it. For years, European scientists assumed the drops were sap, a secretion from the tamarisk itself. Bodenheimer looked closer. He camped under the tamarisks. He watched the branches in the early morning, and he saw something nobody had documented with precision before. The drops were not coming from the tree, they were coming from tiny scale insects living on the bark. 2 species, Trabutina manipara and Najacoccus serpentinus. These insects feed on the tamarisk sap. Their bodies cannot process all the sugar, so they excrete the excess as clear, sweet droplets. The droplets crystallize into small white pellets. Overnight, the pellets fall to the ground with the dew, and when the sun rises and the desert heats up, the pellets melt. Now run this through the 5 clues. White, yes? The pellets are pearl-colored and waxy, small and round like coriander seed, yes? Pinhead to pea-sized, 4 to 6 millimeters across. Appears with the dew, yes. They form overnight as moisture drops, melts in the sun, yes. They dissolve as soon as temperatures climb, tastes like honey wafers, yes. Bedouins still use them today as a honey substitute. All 5 clues passed. Bodenheimer published the findings with Theodor in 1929 under the title Ergebnisse der Sinai-Expedition, 1927. Then, in 1947, he wrote a summary article called The Manna of Sinai in the journal The Biblical Archaeologist. And there is a bonus layer here that most viewers never hear about. Moses compared the pellets to coriander seed, which in Latin is Coriandrum sativum. Pharmacology researchers Piyush Mahendra and Shraddha Bisht at Suresh Gyan Vihar University in Jaipur, India, published a 2011 study in the Indian Journal of Pharmacology showing that coriander seed extract at 100 milligrams per kilogram in mice produced anxiolytic activity comparable to diazepam. The active compound is linalool, which makes up around 60 to 70% of coriander seed essential oil. Moses did not have to pick coriander as his comparison. He picked the seed that in ancient Mediterranean medicine was already tied to calming the nerves and settling the stomach. The description carries weight we often miss. So is the case closed. Not quite. The math problem no scientist has solved. Here is the wall Bodenheimer hit, and every scientist since. In a good rainfall year, the Bedouins of the Sinai collect roughly 600 kilograms of tamarisk manna across the entire peninsula in one season. That figure comes from Bodenheimer's own 1947 paper. Exodus chapter 12, verse 37, records about 600,000 Israelite men leaving Egypt on foot, besides women and children. Traditional counts place the total group, near 2 million people, eating manna 6 days a week for 40 years. The math doesn't come close to closing. Avinoam Danin, a botanist at the Hebrew University, documented a second source in a 1972 paper in Economic Botany. He found that the shrub Hamada salicornica, which dominates southern Sinai, also produces sweet white drops from insect activity. The Bedouins call it man-rimph. Danin's work expanded the supply picture, but it still doesn't close the gap. Not for that population, not for 40 years. Not even with generous assumptions about good rain years. So we are left with something honest. The natural world can explain what manna looked like, tasted like, melted like, and formed like. Every physical detail Moses recorded matches a real substance that is still documented in the Sinai today. What the natural world cannot explain is the scale, where the science ends and scripture begins. This is the part of the investigation that interests me most. A lot of people want this question to land in one of two places. Either manna was pure miracle with no physical basis, or manna was just insect secretion, and the Bible is exaggerating. The evidence does not sit cleanly in either camp. The Bible gives us a physical template so specific that we can match it to a real substance. Tamarisk honeydew, Hamada exudate, real things, still happening. And then the Bible describes behavior the real thing cannot do. Feed a camp of that size. For 40 years, 6 days a week, doubling on the 6th day, stopping completely on the 7th, stopping entirely the day they crossed the Jordan. It is almost as if the author is pointing to something familiar and then asking us to notice what is different about it. The miracle is not in the material. The material is ordinary. The miracle is in the volume, the timing, and the 40-year consistency. What the Bedouins still gather in Sinai today. Today, if you travel into the wadis of southern Sinai in June, you can still find it. Tamarisk trees with white pellets scattered beneath them. Bedouins still collect them. Botanists still photograph them. Entomologists still study the scale insects Bodenheimer identified almost 100 years ago. The template Moses described is real. The insects are cataloged. The pellets still fall with the dew. They still melt in the morning sun. What the ancients recorded was not fantasy. It was a living desert phenomenon. And then something happened in that desert that made an ordinary substance serve a purpose that ordinary substances cannot serve. The question isn't whether manna was real. The question is what kind of real it was. And that question the Bible already answered a long time ago.